Welcome to Monarchist Minute Royalist news and discussion out of the good old US of A. I am Charles York. We have a fun episode because tonight, Monday, whenever you're seeing this, is the 100th video that we have uploaded to this channel that is around. I mean, there may be an unlisted video, so from your perspective, it may be 99, but I was too lazy to count, even though I had a week to prepare for this. So, we have a question, a surprise question from Will that only I and he know about. We have a uh, plan from Vic, which makes a lot of sense, and we have a DM from Craig telling me that all is well. So, I have terrible allergies. So, what we're going to do is we're going to firstly let me open up the stupid doc thing that I take the timestamps on. And we're going to let everyone go around, take the rants. I'll be last because we're going to be doing some ranting about things and try to make it somewhat monarchist related, lads. And then I'm going to press on as I always do. And we are going to metaphorically, for the sake of YouTube's copyright system, break Constantine's legs later. Yeah, don't ask why. All right. So, Trad, you have a 5-minute rant about something? Rant away.
Oh no, I didn't have a 5-minute rant. I said we could let people 5-minute rants.
Well, do something. Talk
I'm
about something. Monarchy,
You
favorite
know what?
monarchy.
I'll talk about something. I had something prepared, so I'll talk about something.
Wunderbar.
Okay. We come to you tonight with heavy hearts for the city of Oakland, as Las Vegas has stolen a second sports team from the city of Oakland in 5 years. First, it was the National Football League's Raiders. The Oakland Athletics have announced that they will be moving to Las Vegas in 2027. This is, for lack of a better term, despicable of the highest order. Professional sports teams should not be moving around at all. In other countries, specifically in terms of their soccer leagues, because, well, soccer is the most popular sport in the world, but the soccer teams that play in other countries are clubs. They aren't big money sports franchises that are owned by billionaires. Of course, some of those clubs still are owned by billionaires, but that's beside the point. That are rooted in their communities and are so attached to the places that they are in that moving them would be considered anathema to these people, with the exception of one instance in England coming up on 20, 30 years ago now, with Wimbledon FC moving to Milton Keynes and becoming MK Dons, which was universally panned by all and sundry, which has led people to essentially vow never to do it again.
Have you on that, have you considered that the reason that they made the American teams for any sport really have a really bad habit of moving around is because we don't like old sports, like especially soccer in Europe and in other countries, like it's very common for them to just stay in one place for however long they exist. But in America, we don't really have like the history that these towns do, right? Like Manchester United, Manchester's been around for basically since Roman times. But
Right.
U.S. cities don't have that history. They don't have, and their teams don't have a connection. Like if you look at most teams, the only connection they have to their city is the name under the team name on the logo. The only teams that I can really think of being like in the NFL at least being connected to their city by virtue of their branding is probably the Bears because they're connected to the Cubs, but that inherently isn't connected to Chicago, and the Patriots. Oh, and of course,
Well,
my team, the Texans. But like, there's no other real kind of locking in thing, and they just tend to move around,
the
especially
Colts,
like.
actually, let me correct you, the Colts,
Oh, yeah, that's
because
so teams tend to, but like teams that don't have that solidifying like historical ideal tend to
of
just
course that of
fly
course that is
around.
of course that historical ideal with the Colts is now bumped because the name was devised as a horse racing thing, and horse racing was very popular here in
True.
Baltimore. So that is now bonked because of the fact that they got stolen from us in the middle of the night in a snowstorm.
Hmm. Well, and I mean, like California is really bad for this. For like the Raiders have been in time. They've been the Oakland Raiders, the Los Angeles Raiders, the Oakland Raiders again, and now the Las Vegas Raiders. And the Rams were originally what I think it was St. Louis Rams, and now they're in Los
They
Angeles.
were in the Rams were in LA for a long time before they were in St. Louis.
My point still stands. Like California just and well, then again, I don't really like California teams in anything. I don't really like the Golden State Warriors either.
Nobody likes Californians in general. What's your
That's
point?
true. Should we
Yeah,
should we
no,
talk
it's
about our
literally
imminent
California.
should we talk about our imminent plans to nuke California into the ocean? It's a joke.
Also, fun fact: I actually googled how old Manchester was. It was founded before Vesuvius went up.
Oh, yeah, so very
Yeah,
But,
early.
AD
but of
79.
course, but the thing that I'm talking about here is that there are some American soccer clubs kicking around at the amateur levels that are about as old as World War One.
But even
I'm
then, like
serious.
that, yeah, but that does not have like the history that European teams do, which is my point. Like
Well,
you're, go ahead, Charles.
I mean,
And those
I don't know
teams
much
were,
about
and those
professional.
and those teams were, oh, sorry to cut you off, but those teams were once professional teams. If it weren't for a dispute in American soccer governance, gee, where have we heard that before? Then soccer could have been the number two sport along with baseball 100 years ago.
Yeah, but it decided not to be. And now baseball, though being our national sport, isn't even our most popular. Our most popular are obviously football and basketball, which, to be fair, are more exciting sports than soccer. Sorry, not sorry, but
You,
I
you
mean,
Hey,
mean
I
baseball?
will. I will
no,
Did
say.
you? Okay.
no, they're more exciting than soccer too. Baseball is more
Oh,
exciting than soccer.
I will say, as someone whose only sport he played in school as an extracurricular was baseball. It is a boring sport, but I will beat somebody up and with a baseball bat and get arrested for it and sent to prison before I let it not be our national sport. Oh,
The,
Jose, can
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you
yeah. Well,
see?
there's another point, by the way. Like, what would we do without baseball? Like, how would we, play what's mailbox baseball? What would we do without the large number of baseball bats not being used for baseball? I mean,
Well,
it's just a national tragedy, in my opinion, if we
well,
lost baseball.
one thing I would actually like to do, or someday, is because I don't. This is all pre-pandemic, so I don't know if people still do it, but there is somewhere around here was a old school baseball league, traditional style, like with
Mm-hmm.
cotton clothes or however the game used to be different.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and one day I would like to try that because if I'm gonna stand, looking at the grass in the outfield when I get clobbered by a baseball. True story, by the way. I would, I would like it to be an old, heavy one that is somewhat misproportioned. So I have a greater chance of just being knocked straight out and getting retrograde amnesia. Well, I wouldn't want. Okay, if I could have selective retrograde amnesia, where I could like remember all
Forget.
my Catholic stuff and monarchist stuff, but then like just forget like all the bad stuff that I know, that would just be great. Like
That
selective
would
retrograde amnesia. That would be
good.
that would
By
be
the
perfect.
way, since we skimmed across this, I just got a nerd rant that I wanted to go on since I now have one. So I was playing a game that I hadn't played since I first got my Xbox One back when, and it was called Rise Son of Rome. It was a really fun game. And after learning Roman history and then going back and playing it recently, I was very unhappy with some of the historical depiction. This isn't like nitpicky, oh, this armor's slightly incorrect. It's not like that kind of. It is big, big issues. For example, the main setting of the game has you playing a general named Marius, who the Marian reforms, which is who that's named after and who the character is named after, came before Julius Caesar. And then Marius, or Marius, depending on how you want to pronounce it, then goes on this big revenge. I mean, the game's 10 years old, so I'm not going to, give spoiler warning. But anyway, like he eventually goes and tries to kill the Emperor Nero, which is, like 100 years after Marius was dead. And the reason he found out that Nero had basically betrayed him was because he was fighting in Britain and defending Hadrian's Wall, which wouldn't have come for like another, 50, 100 years. Like, and it's such a weird game, like with just the history. And then that got me going into other things. And like, why do people screw up Roman history so bad? The best depiction of Roman history I've seen recently was Monty Python.
I will break Constantine's
We didn't
legs a
say
third
any
time.
names.
I get
Yeah,
my
yeah.
legs broken. I don't have to work anymore.
It's like that thing where the prison
So
guard beating on
literally, it's a
another
win-win
in.
situation.
Yeah, it's that thing where the prison guard's beating on another inmate whenever you say something like, "Yeah, I'll keep saying stuff there. You're beating on him."
Oh, okay. Well, here's the thing with Constantine, though. You see, Constantine, we have a doctor who's going to work for your employer. We'll send you to the employee doctor, and he'll get you a note that says, "Oh, you're fine. You can go back to work. Just don't lift anything over 20 pounds."
Oh yeah, let's play the VA doctor game. That'll go
Honestly,
great.
the VA deserves better. Like veterans deserve better.
Veterans do deserve better, and I mean the VA is a great example of why that's not good. But we're getting too serious. We need to stay fun. Anyway,
Well,
nerd rant.
Whimsy.
Whimsy.
no, wait a minute. It's my turn. I came up with this question last week, and I want to share it with everyone.
Please.
Okay, Charles knows about this. But I had to sit down after our podcast and us going over Charles' Jacobite rant. And that made me have to come up and ask the important question. If we go back to Charles the First and the whole entire conflict between the Parliament and Stuarts begins there. So I had to think and said, who's responsible for destroying the world more? Woodrow Wilson or Oliver Cromwell?
Ah, I
That's
could level.
hard.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna say
I've got it.
Wilson,
I've got it.
mostly because I hate
No.
Wilson.
Hold on. I've got the answer.
Serbia. Yeah, Serbia. Good
Woodrow
answer.
Wilson ruined America much worse than Cromwell ever could. But Cromwell ruined the rest of the world more than Woodrow ever could.
I'm of a similar
No,
opinion.
Woodrow screwed up the world, dude. What do you mean?
Well, okay.
I'm of a similar opinion because I've thought about it. I realized if it weren't for Cromwell, the conditions that caused Woodrow Wilson to exist probably would have never happened.
True, but the parliamentarians would have revolted whether or not Cromwell was there.
But would they have won?
There's an argument
his
in that. Though
leadership.
there's an argument in that. What I would rather argue, I don't think that. I think they would have won. I don't think they'd have been as the oxymoron that it is. They wouldn't have been as stable as they were if they didn't have the grandees. And yes, Charles gonna kick back in laughter. Stable Cromwell, but like they still had some stability with Cromwell, no matter how horrible it was. Without him, they would have just fallen apart much quicker, which, in my opinion, would have been a good thing.
William of Darth Maul is actually saying in our text chat, William of Orange is worse than either of them.
I mean, this is kind of true.
I'd accept that.
I disagree.
I mean,
I think
okay. Here's the thing. Okay, Cromwell. I mean, you gotta. It's sort of, you had to consider um the backlash when it comes to the people as individuals and talking about the actions, because we can't judge the people because ultimately that's to God alone, but the actions of the people. Judging the actions of the people is different from judging the consequences of somebody, because with Cromwell, what we had after was everyone saying like, "Hey, this republic thing kind of not working out so hot." And the monarchy was destroyed functionally by William and Mary doing the stupid. Um, it's like, how do you hate? Okay, like I understand like the whole ha 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 hate your father-in-law thing, but like how do you do it that much that you wreck Britain by doing that? Anyways,
Oh, that's
um,
another point. It's because they're British.
but
that's
yeah,
No other
acceptable.
reason.
okay. Well, anyways, so the thing is that the ultimate result of Cromwell in Britain was um what you call it that the stupid republic fell. Everyone thought it was a dumb idea, and the Puritans were kind of dumb. uh and the thing is, I don't really like Cromwell, but and then what was the other thing? Shoot, the only other legacy of Oliver Cromwell was oh yeah, there's a British
Ruining.
there's
So
a Britannia class steam locomotive named after him. That's his legacy.
here's the thing. So Cromwell did lead to parliamentary ideals spreading and becoming more popular, but I would argue that William Prince of Orange was very bad for the UK and was, I mean, if you ask any Scottish person what they think of the English government at the time, they will likely have a lot of words to say, most of which will not be allowed in this podcast. But
Yeah.
I would argue that the consequences of both William and of Cromwell were not their own. I Here's the thing. The Dutch broke away from the Spanish as a republic, which caused them to start spreading republican ideals among other nations, including England. But do you know what caused the Dutch to break away from the Spanish? The cause of all problems in the world, the French. And this is why I think we should
I
just destroy
I thought
France.
you were getting ready to say the Reformation, honestly, because the
No,
Dutch
I
were
Right.
Calvinists.
I blame the French and Martin Luther as well. But I'm not going to start my anti-prot rant because I respect you, William.
Thank you.
Okay, however,
But I'm genuinely curious now. What did the French do?
They basically, France really. So there was a guy named Charles V, Holy Roman Emperor, King of Spain. And also King of the Netherlands. He had a lot of places that he controlled. And the French really didn't like that because they were
getting
surrounded
back
on
to
the
the
north,
board.
they were surrounded in the north, in the east, and in the south by Habsburgs. And they didn't much like that. So they stoked rebellion within the Netherlands and really all the Spanish lowlands. And they also started doing a bunch of really, really annoying things. And a lot of those annoying things include starting a big rivalry with Spain when really they didn't care too much about Spain before that. And this big rivalry with Spain would cause all sorts of fun little things in the future, including the Spanish War of Secession, the the things in the Spanish Civil War, things in the Napoleonic era when Spain was subjugated by the French Emperor himself. Like so many things that I blame on the French and the French only. I will say, however, I don't blame all the French. I like Louis IX. I like Hugh Capet. I like Charlemagne, though I would argue he's not French.
He's not
I
French.
blame
He's German.
he's Frankish.
He is a
Not
German.
that is not
Frankish
that
people are German.
that is not German. That is not German.
It's like how Visigoths are German.
Then you're saying Spaniards are okay.
They are.
Opinion invalid.
No, you're wrong.
No,
You should feel
Visigoths
bad.
are technically Germanic. They hadn't fully Latinized. Same thing as the Franks. It's more of a yes in
Franks are
between.
Germans. The Nords, like Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Germans. English people, Germans. By extension.
All of Europe Germans.
Exactly. Everything
Except for
south
the
of the Danube and
Italians.
east of everything south of the Danube and east of Poland is not German.
The Italians aren't German.
Yes, they are.
No,
Northern
no.
Italians are definitely German.
Ostrogoth.
And I say this as somebody I've come to this realization of enlightenment. Well, I hate the Enlightenment, but anyways,
We
the
know,
new and
anyway.
improved Enlightenment. Okay, so when you're part German, like I am, you're really still all German
Oh,
because
100%.
at the end of the day, what ist das deutsches Vaterland?
Exactly.
999, his fatherland was wie vigor, you know? I mean, it's like, what is the German fatherland? Is it Prussia? Is it Austria? Is it where the water flows down the Rhine? No. No,
Everything
no,
out.
no.
I'll tell you what German is. I'll tell you what German territory is. Everything out of civilized society.
I'll make a map.
I
I'll make a map.
argue.
This'll help.
I argue that the idea of the Germans being barbarians held by the Romans has held true to this day.
I'll make a map. This'll help. This'll help.
Well, given
You
the
do that,
time
Barbara.
period in the state of Germany during the Roman Empire, you can understand why they had that perception.
Mud huts and
well,
going
I mean,
bar.
wasn't anyone who wasn't Greco-Roman considered barbarian?
Yes.
Basically, if I remember correctly, the word barbarian is basically a racial slur came up by the Greeks because they're making fun of the languages they spoke.
Yes, they basically, so the way of Greek and Latin, the way it sounded and sounds, it's very basically languages tend to fluctuate based on how much they use vowels versus consonants. And so Greco-Roman, like that language area tends to be about 50-50 with that. Like, any Latin or Greek word, it's usually consonant vowel, consonant vowel, consonant vowel, it's very balanced. German was very heavy on consonants. It still is to this day. I mean, speak any word of German and it sounds like you're, mashing metal together like in a
That's a little too
factory.
far.
Anyway,
I know, I'm trying to
Dublin
learn
Dublin
German.
is German though.
oh, he's still making his map. Anyway, but like I was saying, so when they encountered the barbarians, they just hear them talking, and they just go bar 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 bar. That's what you sound like, bar 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 bar, and that's where barbarian came from.
The
Literally, you are
interesting
from the land of
thing-
barbar.
The interesting thing is that the Greeks probably had no contact with Germanic tribes, but they probably had contact with Central European Celtic tribes.
I'd say Central European Celtic. I'd say Celtic, not Celtic. Dacian, Thracian, Illyrian, but not.
Illyrian is stretch. Gallic tribes
Yeah,
for sure because they had colonies out that direction.
Well,
that's
Gauls
true.
are would-be Celts.
No.
Fit under the umbrella of Celts.
Okay. But yeah, no, that's where barbarian came from. Literally, you're just from the land of barbar. But I will say I admire the Romans for their strategy of expansion. It was, we're not attacking you. This is a defensive war. Don't mind the fact that we started it. This is a defensive war. And they did that all the way to their greatest extent. Rome never fought an offensive war in the entire time they expanded.
It's just preemptive strike after preemptive strike.
Hey, no, literally, like, they look like they're gonna attack us. Let's, for our own safety, conquer all their peoples and take all their stuff.
Okay, okay. Here's the prime strategy. This is the Chinese edition. Okay, you had to protect your people because there are barbarians on the border. So you go and conquer those people. But now you have a bunch of people who aren't like your people. So you civilize them and make them your people. But now you have to protect your people because there are barbarians on the border.
Just
A+
remember,
strategy for becoming
for the Roman style. Oh no, there's barbarians on our borders. Let's civilize them so we can protect them. Oh no, more barbarians. Same thing for the Chinese. Oh no, there's Mongols. Let's make sure they're okay. Oh no,
Although
more
I
Mongols.
will say, in the case of the Chinese, there are several historical incidents where instead of the Chinese invading and assimilating the foreigners invade China and just say, "Hey, it's pretty nice here," and assimilate
And then assimilate the
voluntarily.
Chinese. Yeah, yeah. Let's not talk about the Manchu emperors of China or the amount of Mongol emperors of China. Quite a few, to say the
And of
least.
course, the Qing
Yeah,
will say Manchu.
I don't think the Han have ruled China, well, at least in an empire sense, since the Han Dynasty. I
What
think
about
it's
Ming?
okay. That's fair. But anyway, yeah, no. I mean, even Chinese nationalism was basically like, we're all fine. We're all friends. Tibetans, Han, Manchu, Mongols. We're all fine.
And everyone
Except
who's not Han Chinese is basically
immediately deported. Yeah.
fighting tooth and nail trying to get out.
Well, that's just China for you. I will say China has hilarious foreign policy. When they first met the Japanese said to the Chinese, "Could you call us Sun Country, Nippon?" which is their name. And China said, "No, we're going to call you Little Stupid Country," which is the name for Japan in Chinese. It's literally Little Stupid Country.
Wait, what does it mean?
That's what it means, Little
No,
Stupid
I
Country.
mean, like, what's the Chinese word?
I don't know what the Chinese. Okay, that's not true. Technically, I do speak one phrase of Chinese. Would you like to hear it?
Sure.
Is it going to
早上杭州我现在我有冰淇淋，我很喜欢冰淇淋，谢谢早上我。That is all the Chinese I speak.
and you speak
Well,
it very well.
now I
Thank
will say, Trad, I must correct you. You mispronounced it. It's not Nippon, it's Nihon.
Oh, okay, weeaboo. Yeah, let's
Hey,
correct.
Nippon is the
Okay.
Anglicanization. And if you call it Nippon, the Japanese are going.
I don't care.
Sorry, Charles.
It's not like I'm going to Japan.
Anyway, let's get back to sort of a what were we talking about again?
We're doing a fun episode. We don't have a topic. We have a whatever we're talking about
You know,
topic.
I really wish
Right.
the
Wait,
mini
this is a
golf.
fun episode.
Gentlemen,
So
what are we
let's
talking about?
I
so
really
let's
wish the
talk
mini golf
about
was on
so
stage.
My rampant hate of anime. No, I'm kidding.
Yes.
No, what's
this could
fun
actually be
about
a good
this?
this could actually be a good debate because we have a pro anime and an anti anime.
I'm still drawing the beautiful map of Germany.
Which
Or
I will not
Germany
look at.
proper.
Which I do not plan to look at. As soon as you said Dublin, I stopped caring because I know that map is going to
Wait,
be.
what?
Yeah, he's including
What?
Dublin in his grand German Reich.
No. Okay. Okay,
This isn't directly
Germanophile.
German. It's
Come
culturally
fight me.
close.
No, you don't get to do that. No.
The
Yes,
Next
he
thing you
Balkan
know,
does.
border guard.
next thing you
I
next
was
thing you know,
born
he's gonna be
on the
like,
street where the German drums beat.
for a fact, like in like 10 minutes, we'll be talking about something random, and we'll hear Constantine like come on the microphone. He's like Manchuria and
No, I'm just doing a
Shanghai.
map of Europe.
Like,
Bosnia
Come
is not
out, you
German because
proud
they're Muslim.
man. Come out and fight me
Actually,
if
no,
you
that would make them
can.
German.
Okay, so now I'm
This
gonna
is going to be one of
rewrite
the most
come out
cursed
you
maps
black
of
and
all
tan.
time.
well,
Okay,
hold
so
on. If you're going by that logic, Constantine, that means Turkey has to be German.
It
oh
is though.
Well,
no.
yeah, it would have to be.
The
Okay,
population overlap is a circle, bro. There's no Venn diagram.
okay, so Trad, I'm now gonna rewrite come out you black and tan. So instead of ranting about the British, it's ranting about Germans.
This is going to turn into all of us making small, angry projects about the Germans until none of us are talking to each other. I can tell. To which Charles will lament and then start singing Jacobite songs.
Oh, that's
So let's talk about like in soccer, there is a huge political culture of soccer in Europe. And I know that Trad can speak to this on the Spanish side. There are two clubs in Glasgow, Celtic and Rangers. Celtic were founded because the Catholic immigrants were not allowed to play for Rangers because they were Catholic.
Standard
So,
Britain moment.
yes.
Well, on the political era of it, there to understand the scope of how big soccer is in Europe for political things, there was a terrorist group in Spain called the ETA, or ETA. Yes, they're Basque terrorists, and they were known for blowing up a lot of Franco supporters in the 90s um, and in the 70s as well. But something interesting about that is, despite being a literal terrorist group that car bombs people like the IRA, the the ETA is not considered as big of a threat as Barcelona and Real Madrid soccer clubs. Those are
That
considered
is
bigger.
amazing.
Those are considered bigger threats because of just how much weight they carry. And also, this is your weekly reminder that Catalonians, I don't like them. Continuing, yeah, no, you know, I
There's
mean,
only one
You mustn't forget
Spain.
to
There
include
are no
Latvia.
sub-kingdoms. Catalonians are just as bad as the SNP.
if they want to be their own little kingdom, they can take Aragon, but they're not going to take Aragon because it's staying with Spain. The king will never allow them to leave. But
Guys, I
Oh,
had to inform you, I have done the based.
oh
what have
no,
you done?
So the Great Western Railway in Britain had a class of locomotives called the Kings. And one model that I've been trying to get is their model is Hornby's King James II. And I have found a pre-owned King James II, which I am now the owner of, but it's going to take 5 working days to arrive. So,
Oh, congratulations!
and it was only like 60 some odd quid. So,
no one speaks your British language.
All right, gentlemen, the
80
match is done.
bucks.
Oh, I was about
You
to say
know,
you spell color COLOR.
I know
Those are
Victor
you and
said
there's
it as a
No.
joke, but now I kind of want to have the pro-anime versus anti-anime debate.
You will be crushed
It's done. It
ultimately
is being
by the
posted.
forces of righteousness.
You'll be destroyed by the Catholic anti-anime
Oh, I should have made that
coalition
clear.
of
Hold up.
Oh
meat
my,
chuck.
what is this? Oh my, what is
This
this?
is the map. This is like
What? Did he post
I
it?
fully support this map.
Let me see this.
Oh,
Hang on a
What is
like
second.
this?
this is horribly high res. Can I
Oh, why?
I'm
Oh,
getting
hold on.
Conrad.
I need to repost it with a better key.
I'm getting
Why aren't the
Conrad in
bat?
here. He needs to see German Poland. I want to see what he'll
There we
get.
go.
What?
So we've
I
got
need
direct
to
Germans
put
in
it
dark black.
okay.
Mid gray
I'm gonna
we've got
try. Hold on,
we've
everybody.
got culturally close, and then
I'm
light
going.
gray schizophrenia or imported
This looks more. This looks like more of a map of how safe are you from German invasion 1942. Like, dude, what is
Okay.
this?
Okay, I'm gonna try to post this um in the YouTube description because I can't speak because the council there's not enough here for a quorum and this isn't an appropriate meeting space, but we might
That
recognize this as the legitimate full map of Germany.
no, no, no.
No.
We will get destroyed.
Okay, well firstly, it
Okay, no. Hang on a second. Just because the Normans ruled southern Italy does not mean Sicily is a part of your Germany.
Yeah, I said
No.
I imported monarch.
This is your Reich ambition, isn't it?
this
And
is
look
the
at
Real.
Romania. Look
This,
at
this is
this,
the
Romania.
ol- this
this
is
is
the
not.
only
No, this is not Europa Universalis 4. You cannot just say everything is Germany. That's not how this works. Dude,
Okay, hey,
Finland.
he's not saying
No. Hold on. Finland is marked entirely in like the light blue, saying that it's not part of the, Reich. But like, Finland literally, I mean, maybe for 5 minutes,
Finland,
but
Finnish people aren't German.
oh yeah.
That doesn't count. That doesn't count.
Oh
You
yeah.
had a
Oh
monarch
yeah.
for like
Oh yeah.
5 minutes. That was from Germany.
Okay, but then you include Italy. Okay, bud.
Lombards.
okay.
Finland is
Lombards.
more Nordic and German than Italy is, especially Sardinia, because Sardinia has never been directly controlled or inhabited by
Italy.
Germans.
The
It
fact
is
that
the most
the
Latin
fact
of all the
the fact
successor states.
hold on, sorry. The fact that Andalusia and Portugal are both considered to be slightly German Why?
Because
But
of the
Okay.
the
Visigoths.
Basque country isn't?
Visigoths. Yes, because they're Basque and not German.
But the
Okay.
But
Andalusians
they
are
were
okay.
ruled by Germans.
Okay,
Okay, there are
they are
two
not
races. There
culturally
are
German.
two races in the human race. There are Germans and Basque. The Russians are Basque. The Greeks are Basque. The the I was what the Mormons, the Mormon race.
Oh yes, the Mormon. We need to get QWERTY on here to talk about the Mormon race. This is
All
just
you
I
need to
don't.
know about the
This
Mormons.
map was
They're
made as a
wrong.
meme, by the way. This was a joke.
I know,
I
but
be
actually,
clarified.
I will say
no
this actually is a
no.
very conservative map
Oh no, it's
because
super conservative.
yeah, yes,
Everything
because
south
for
of the
two
Danube
reasons.
and west of Poland is not German.
Yeah,
I mean,
yes.
south of the Danube and west of Poland.
So there are two reasons why this map is actually very conservative and Germany could probably claim more. Firstly, because there are like pockets of Germans scattered like everywhere in Eastern Europe until World War II happened. So like the Volga River, that's Germany now. But
Oh yeah, I
there's
did forget
also
Volga
this nice
German.
little strip of coastline on the Black Sea that connects Russia with the rest of its Slavic bros, which as we just established are really Basque, with the rest of its Basque bros in the
Yeah,
Balkans.
no, we got the Basque German
Yeah,
diarchy.
let's make a map. Let's make a map of all the Basque, like what the Basque Empire is going to be. I'm just going to color all of Europe red and say it all belongs to the Basque.
Well, is
Let's
it
do
actually apparently? This may have been a joke, but there
I'm gonna
actually
make this
was
map
this.
worse. I'm gonna make this map worse.
better
Well,
not.
if we
This
really want to go there, the Basques are the original inhabitants of Europe because they were there before the Indo-Europeans, and that's why the
I'm gonna
language
make
is
this map
different.
so much worse.
Please
yeah,
don't.
maybe, but no. So actually, here's something I've heard, and I don't know if it's true, so take it with a grain of salt. There's this like Basque nationalist group that like wants to prove that everyone like famous in history was Basque, like William
Oh
Shakespeare, and
no.
the
Why?
paint because if William Shakespeare was Basque, that means that
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 Basque independence is something that the international community needs to back right now, and America needs to drop the nukes on Madrid to ensure Basque independence or something. I
That's
don't know.
not
what? So they're just
what.
are they just plainly ripping off Afrocentrism then?
I
That's
don't know,
oh
but
yes. Let's.
I do not support Basque independence. I
Do we
say
want
that
to? Do we want to complain about the Cleopatra movie?
Yes, we should. That's a good idea.
Wait, what Cleopatra movie?
There's a new Cleopatra documentary or movie or whatever, and people
who
have
made
been
it.
claiming Netflix, obviously.
Okay, well that makes sense.
And people, am I allowed to say the WWK phrase on here?
DM it to me because I
I
don't know what
will.
that
You
is.
can't say that. I don't think you're gonna be able to say that, dog.
I think well either
DM
way.
it to me.
I
They're
will. It's
complaining that it's whitewashing.
no, it's
No,
not whitewashing. It's the
it's the
opposite.
opposite. It's because Egyptians wanted them to like actually be represented.
Yeah, no, Egyptians were the ones suing Netflix about it because they were mad.
Oh, because they
Oh,
got
we
a
have
new Israeli to play Cleopatra.
I don't know what that phrase means, so
Oh,
I'm
Leon.
gonna say no.
poor
Leon.
soul.
So Leon just wrote an interesting idea, and I wanted to respond to him because he did kind of ask my opinion on this. So his proposal for Spain: have Spain be a confederated state. The king of Spain is the king of the individual regions first to those people, and only king of Spain to the international community. So, for example, if you're living in, say, let's say Valencia, right, then he is to you the king of Valencia, but to the international community, he's just the king of Spain. And that's actually a really interesting idea, Leon. It's wrong, but it's an interesting one. And that's, I think, all I really have to say on that.
I made
Also,
that
that
map
map,
worse.
that not Germans, Basque. Okay, the
Okay,
Cretians
actually,
are.
I would like to say that in I'm not saying that current America would be like this, but if America had developed a slightly different path, the king could
Oh yeah, it was
possibly be like the
2024.
king of Louisiana and the king of America and the king of whatever we would call the Spanish part of it, like California. The whole thing would be
Yeah,
California, but then he'd be the king of Colombia
I
to
would.
the whole. That would be an interesting because I do want the American monarch. I want the Archbishop of Baltimore. The is New Orleans an archdiocese?
I think it's Baton Rouge, but I'm not sure. You
Okay, well,
might.
New Orleans was the capital before we came in, so New Orleans is going to be the capital. Because why is Baton Rouge of all places the capital of Louisiana?
Well, so Baton Rouge was. I'll tell you why. Basically, the capital of French Louisiana at the time was a place called, yes, you know it, New Orleans. But then they
Is it the
basically
one with
marked
that house?
they marked basically the separation between native territory and French territory at this place where there was a big, basically it was a warning by the natives not to go past it. It was a stick with a red, probably bloody skull on the top of it, and it was a red stick, or in French, bâton rouge. And so that's what it was for a while. And then when France equitably and peacefully took over the rest of North America, they they said, to show that we like the natives, this is where we're putting it, right on the border of our old territory. Despite the fact that we
Aw.
conquered like 300% of what we used to have. But
Still
that's
holds
why.
a minute.
That's why Baton Rouge is the current capital of Louisiana. That being said, what point was I going to make about Louisiana? I can't remember. I was just going to tell the
Something
history. I
about the
think.
archdiocese? I don't know.
You're going to
No, I
invade
was gonna,
Austria
I was,
Hungary.
I was going to say something completely bold-faced, inflammatory, and just out there, and then not explain it. But I
They have
can't
some
remember.
of the
So let's just assume you
objectively.
did. How dare you? How dare you?
I mean, they have some of the objectively best cooking in the United States.
Oh, should we
Who?
get our
Asians?
should we get our Chancellor John Arnis on here to discuss Cajun cooking?
We
We
This
should.
is gonna
probably,
That'd be
we
be
not a
probably,
bad
we
idea.
probably could try.
listen to a
Not a bad
3 hour
idea.
TED talk on why we're all wrong.
I mean, here's the thing though. John confuses me because he's like Louisianan, which means he should be culturally French,
But then
but
he's
at the
full
same time
Anglo.
he's Eastern Catholic. So
He's East Cath but full Anglo, which is
I
weird. But
it's just I mean
I mean,
it's
If I
he
remember correctly, he's like 1% West African too.
we should
in that case
totally.
he should be the part of the
That is a
Uh,
very that is a very trace percentage.
Either
well in
way,
that
And
case
it's
that's
oh
probably
wait,
likely
West
going to get us
African, never
into.
mind.
It's likely to only get us into trouble if we continue. I will say, however, we should change his title from Chancellor to Supreme Leader for
Thank
life,
you. I
since
do
that.
love Supreme Leader.
should,
Supreme Leader.
should we talk about the weird trend of some people just liking Juche? Because that weirds me out. I don't know why people just
I
love Juche for some reason.
look as a
I'm
monarchist,
the
I'm all
one.
for questioning the American, perception of the world, but North Korea is probably one of the areas where I can agree with Uncle Sam that it's kind of crazy. Why did anyone like North Korea
Um,
except
I just like the debate on whether or not North Korea qualifies as a monarchy.
it's
it does not
No,
qualify.
that's
I
like
no.
mean,
that's like
it quite
saying that
literally is, though.
no, hold
You
on.
know what? I will be a contrarian. I will say it is because the same family has ruled it for 3 generations.
Okay, hold on. So by that logic, was the Commonwealth of England under Cromwell a monarchy because he was the Lord Protector
Yes.
and it was a hereditary office
Technically,
passed
yes.
to his son?
Here's the thing. I am of the opinion that to be a true monarchy, it has to be divinely inspired, or at least claiming to be.
And the
Well,
Puritans ain't
have you
divinely
seen
inspired.
North Korean propaganda? They kind
True,
of
but
do that.
they're not saying that they draw from God. They're saying they are gods, which is just wrong. But
So it is
you know,
divinely inspired.
it's not divinely inspired. If it was
It's
divinely
According to
not
inspired,
them, it is.
divinely inspired by Christian standards, but it's divinely inspired.
Okay, let me rephrase what you just said. It's not divinely inspired by the only objective standard, but it is by subjected human flawed standard. There you go.
there's
Okay, well,
so many.
without logic, that Japan isn't a
This was
monarchy
supposed to be the
because
fun
the
episode. I'm
emperor.
literally joking
Yeah,
around.
I
without
know, but
logic, Japan isn't a monarchy because the emperor isn't divinely inspired by
it's a
Christianity.
monarchy in waiting.
No, I'm not saying it has to
Well,
be Christianity divinely inspired. Like, I'm saying that it has to be divinely inspired by someone other than a person god.
Okay, then the ancient Egyptians aren't a
They weren't.
monarchy.
They weren't inspired by person gods. They had other gods. They had Amun Ra. They did not just do based off of the
Well,
emperors.
all of the pharaohs were considered gods.
Yes, but they had other gods. They weren't just the pharaohs. North Korea is an atheistic state.
okay, so
We
here,
had we had a comment from Boss Man, our chancellor, in our text chat. France had different outlooks on colonialization. Not a lot of people, and they mostly traded with the natives and didn't take their land.
yes, France was la base when it came to colonizing, but
And this
And
is and this is only referring to colonization of North America, not colonization of Africa.
I thought it was about
I
kids and
wonder
cooking.
how this change of colonial, does anyone else find it funny that the change in French colonial, attitude happened after the French had a republic and then they started butchering all the natives?
A good point. Yeah, well, to
I'm sure
just
it's not. I'm sure it's just a coincidence.
it's totally a coinky dink. But
Let's not get
what
into the mess that is French Indochina.
But I will
or
say,
Haiti.
French Indochina did produce a couple of cool things. But that I mean the churches that are still around.
If you want an example of a true class war, you should see French Haiti in the midst of their revolution. Like that is a war not that is entirely based off of class. Like that is the Marxist
Precisely.
ideal of class warfare.
Which
And
Haitian
exactly.
revolution, the slave rebellion or a later one?
The
No, it
actual
was
one that's
the
off.
actual slave rebellion. That's what we're talking about.
Yes,
The
because
one which caused Napoleon to sell us Louisiana for pennies on the dollar.
that is correct. And it was because it was not so like when it comes to American like US slave rebellions, it was always African American slaves versus the white American masters, to quote unquote. But when when it came to Haiti, everyone owned slaves. If you were if you were born and raised in France and you moved to Haiti, you owned slaves. If you were born in Haiti, you had slaves. If you were mixed race, you owned slaves. If you were straight up born in Africa, brought over, and then freed later in life, you owned slaves. Everyone in Haiti owned slaves. It was like the revolution there was absolutely based on class and actually more on religion than on race, because it was the kind of upper class Christians versus the massive
Oh boy,
voodoo.
time to get involved in the Mexican Revolution.
Oh yes, well no, but voodoo was like the big religion of the slave rebellion.
Yes, make the Netherlands Hispanic again. I couldn't agree more.
What? I don't know. What do you?
Somebody said it in cat. Somebody said it in the chat.
No, let me see this.
While they're talking about that, let's just zero in on Haiti. There are a ton of reasons that Haiti is in the position it's in right now. But the average person in Haiti is much worse off than the worst person in the United States. The poverty rate in Haiti is embarrassingly high, which is why a lot of Haitians tend to want to come to the United States.
I've
Or
seen
even
war-torn countries that look more livable than Haiti.
Right, and there is actually a massive Haitian community in southern Florida, naturally. There's also, for some reason, a Haitian community in Delaware, of all places. I don't know how they got up there, but there is a community there.
I
Walk,
mean,
And
I guess.
there are Arabs in Dearborn. Like
To
everyone
be
used to.
Isn't
fair,
it like half the population or something?
Yeah, I mean,
when you live on an island that basically gets hit with hurricanes for fun, like you're not exactly going to have a good time. Like the Dominican Republic and Haiti, though I will say the Dominican Republic's in a much better position than Haiti. They
No
like
doubt.
they they basically live half their life underwater based on how many hurricanes they get hit with. I mean, living in the Caribbean's basically with the winds in the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean and the way that the wind comes through, you're basically asking for everything there to get hit with hurricanes constantly. Like it's a lot.
Okay,
yeah.
this leads me into another question. And I've asked this question hundreds of times and no one's quite been able to explain it to me. What is the difference between Dominicans, Franciscans, and Jesuits?
I can explain that
Okay.
actually.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay. So what you're doing is you kind of see from the modern perspective, you just see all these little groups of friars and lay people and priests, and you're just like they all look the same. They all just, kind of wear the same funky little robes and all that. But so you mentioned Dominicans, Franciscans, and Jesuits. I'll describe each of those groups. Basically, most of the time, each group is founded for a specific thing that they do. So the Dominicans, named after Saint Dominic, their job was to go around and to convert Cathars back to Catholicism. Catharism being an early heresy in France.
Right, I
So
never thought about
that's well, I mean, for our viewers, that's what the Dominicans did. And then what was the second group? Oh, Franciscans. Yes, the Franciscans, named after Saint Francis. They of Assisi, of course. The Franciscans they didn't necessarily have a purpose. They were meant to be just friars, people who acted like Saint Francis. They have vows of chastity, poverty, and obedience. And so they just go around preaching the faith, teaching people how to live, and living together in prayer for the Lord. And Jesuits.
Oh boy.
Jesuits were founded by Saint Ignatius of Loyola, someone I actually really like.
Yes.
And they were originally made to combat Protestants. No offense, but that's just what they were made for. And as in all things, the Jesuits seem to not do that correctly. And they went through a
that.
couple of reforms themselves and are now the very modernist group of priests that they are. And they have a really, really bad habit of loving the Second Vatican Council and the Novus Ordo and pushing all sorts of interesting things into the
Okay.
church.
I
I've
will
noticed
say,
the Tradcaf community always seems to have backhanded comments to make about the Jesuits.
okay,
It's
here's
mostly
here.
Father
Let me
Martin.
take
It's
over for a second.
mostly Father Martin.
Yeah. Okay. Here's where we had to. Here's where we had to do this. Okay, because technically all Catholics should love the Second Vatican Council. The implementation, I don't.
Implementation.
Implementation. Okay, don't just hate it when you mispronounce a word once and then your mind can't like re-download, like that memory file's just been temporarily corrupted. Anyways,
Oh,
um, the implementation of the council is what is the problem. You see, the Jesuits were really cool until they were suppressed for the first time in the 1700s, and then they were still pretty cool after that. Like, if you, it's out of print, I think, but if you can find "Purgatory Explained by the Lives and Legends of the Saints" by Father, it's like some really weird European name, Squope or something. Just
Write out the name. I'll try to pronounce it.
I don't
I
think
don't
you're
have the book. I don't have the book near me. Just look up
Okay.
"Purgatory Explained by the Lives and Legends of the Saints." But yeah. So the Jesuits were really great, but then for some reason, you see, this is the thing with intellectuals. Intellectuals are either really great or not. Like, there's no middle ground. So, and unfortunately, for your average person, it's kind of hard to detect because, like, what makes a philosopher good and what makes a philosopher bad isn't really noticeable to the average Joe like me. right? So when Father's saying his homily, right, he's trying to simplify everything. So it may sound the same unless you're paying attention what a good priest is saying, what a bad priest is saying. I mean, sometimes it's blatantly obvious what a bad priest is saying. But so the Jesuits, unfortunately, wrong place, wrong time. They had a lot of not so great people, and now there's like a few good Jesuits, but mainly everyone wouldn't be disappointed if the Jesuits were unironically suppressed tomorrow. But of course, given that the current pope is a Jesuit, it'd be hardly likely that he suppressed his own order. But I still hope and pray every day that well, I pray for the Pope. I don't specifically pray for this, but the Pope wakes up and is like, "By the way, guys, everything I've done, that was just to get people more interested in
It was,
trad.
it was
By
just
the way, I've been on your side the whole time."
Right,
That-
and the other major difference here is the Dominicans had their own right. The Franciscans and
yeah,
Jesuits did not have their own right. The Carmelites also, like the Dominicans, had their own right, the right of Holy Sepulchre, which was mostly in Jerusalem.
oh,
yeah.
the I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if it technically counted as a right, but the way a Jesuit said mass was ever so slightly different from
That
in the
was
TLM.
actually that was actually a Franciscan thing, not a Jesuit thing.
Oh, okay, okay. So I am misremembering. But there is an um this is there's another thing. The Franciscans are supposed to wear very uncomfortable clothes. But like the thing is that like there's like a bunch of different sub varieties of Franciscans because every so often you'll have like a group of Franciscans who wants to be like super hard line with what Saint Francis of Assisi does, and then it does that for like a few years, and then they just become like all the other Jesuits, Franciscans, and like relaxes back, and then another group of Franciscans is like, we want to do it just like Saint Francis, and then that goes on for a few years, and then they're like, so there's that happens. That's the thing.
If you want a really good haircut, what am I on about? Sorry,
I
yeah,
like
no, I'm gonna
haircuts.
recommend you guys a barber. Sorry, I am having a stronk tonight, and I need medical assistance. If you want a good joke, uh, I don't know why I'm talking about haircuts. Anyway, if you want a good joke to represent kind of some of the fun little religious orders, so a
How to
Jesuit.
replace a good. Are you doing the light bulb joke?
No, I'm not doing the light bulb joke.
I'm doing the education
Um, I am. Shush. So a Jesuit, a Franciscan, and a Dominican are walking down a path in Spain, talking about how good their order is and discussing which one they think is better. When suddenly God appears before them. The Franciscan falls to his knees in awe of God, born in Christ, specifically born in poverty, and prays, and the Dominican falls to his knees in awe of the sight of the Holy Trinity in perfection and prays and prays. And the Jesuit walks up to St. Joseph, who stood there right next to Christ, and he says to him, "You thought about where you're going to send your son to school?" It's a great one. It's so good. But yeah, so Jesuits have a fun little, what's the word, reputation for being some of the most interesting characters in the church.
Yes, they do. And
For better
the
or worse, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, the Jesuits are known. I will say this charitably because I went to a Jesuit university. The Jesuits are known for being the academic types,
Mm, yeah.
which I will leave it at that.
All I know, my first experience with this whole low-key backhanded thing that came with the Jesuits is someone made a meme of this weird dude singing about Jesus, and it just had one word in the captions, and it said Jesuits.
I remembered why I said haircut. It was because I was thinking of the haircut
The
joke.
Franciscans.
Have you ever heard the haircut joke for Jesuits?
No.
It's the
No.
last joke I'll tell. So a Franciscan goes in to get a haircut, and he asks the barber how much, and the barber says, "Oh, I don't charge clergymen." And so the Franciscan thanks him and walks out. And the next day, when the barber gets there, he finds a fresh loaf of bread made by the Franciscan. And then the next day, an Augustinian comes in for a haircut, and he asks the barber how much he has to pay. And the barber says the same thing: "I don't charge clergy." And so the Augustinian thanks him, and he walks out. And then the next day, the barber finds a bottle of wine.
Wait, so
And
not to interrupt the joke, but what are Augustinians?
Another
hold,
religious order.
yeah, basically,
Okay.
named after Saint Augustine. Anyway, then next day, Jesuit comes in for a haircut, and asks the barber, "How much do I have to pay for this?" And same answer. Barber says, "I don't charge clergymen." And the Jesuit thanks him and walks out. And the barber starts driving to work the next day, and he thinks, "I wonder what this Jesuit left for me," as the others left stuff for me. And he gets there, and there's 12 more Jesuits waiting.
That's a good one.
I think we're gonna put Charles into cardiac arrest.
Oh no, that'll be all the salt I ate. I had 3 bagels yesterday with butter too. It's Easter, so I can have that.
Yeah, see, oh, it's just great, dude.
Oh.
Jesuit jokes don't get old. They're great.
There's a diocesan priest joke involving light bulbs.
You want to tell it, Victor?
Well, let's see. There's in a church, the light bulb goes out during adoration or whatever. The Carmelite thanks God and does the dark and thanks
Oh,
God for the opportunity to reflect in the darkness. Certain other orders are there, and they thank God for different things. The diocesan priest, when the light bulb goes out, the diocesan priest gets up out of adoration and goes up, changes the light bulb.
There's a whole website. Yeah, I'm sure there is a whole website full of them. Ooh. Yeah, no. Jesuit jokes, they're always so fun because
Yeah.
I think it's always a good thing to have a sense of humor within your church, to know that you can, laugh about just things that can get dark sometimes. So,
Yeah, so as long as, we're not making fun of God or theology itself,
yeah.
as long as or anything negative about the saints. But it's also important to remember that that if you don't like somebody, pray for him. The jokes are great,
Hmm.
but let's also pray for the Jesuits, because at the end of the day, the Jesuits for a while were the intellectual shock troops of, metaphorically speaking, of the Catholic Counter-Reformation. And I mean, hey, they're why large parts of Poland are still Catholic today. So yeah, uh, they can be that again if we just pray for them
Pray,
and they
pray,
stop
pray.
messing with the altar rails. Um, it's like, don't touch my altar rails, okay? Okay, well,
Oh, I
so
just remembered. Can I tell one more?
Go
One
ahead,
more.
please.
Okay, so this one's a spin on the haircut joke. It's very similar, but it's got a different punchline. So there's an FSSP priest who is being visited by the different orders during Holy Week, and on on Monday he's visited by the Franciscans, and he offers them mass privately, and they do the whole thing. And afterwards, the Franciscans, after the priest goes to do something, and he comes back, and the Franciscans are gone, but they've left him bread. And then the next day, Tuesday, Augustinians show up. He does private mass for them. He goes to do something, comes back, they've left him wine. And then on Wednesday, the Jesuits show up, and he does private mass for them, goes to do something, comes back, and What did the Jesuits leave? A bunch of screws where the altar rail used to be.
Oh.
Oh,
Okay,
oh,
so wait,
honestly.
wait. What exactly is the deal behind ultra rails and why are
Okay,
they important?
so here's the dealio. I want to take the lead on this. So it used to be that when you received Christ in the Blessed Sacrament, and this is completely serious, you would kneel because that's our Lord and Savior who gave himself up as a ransom for many. Um, you know, and you would kneel and you would receive him on your tongue, and the rail served as a way as a physically it was a way to kneel because before the altar rail on the parishioner side there you could kneel down that, and there was also the purpose that this rail would separate the holy from the profane. And profane doesn't mean like profanity like swearing in this case. Profane just means common, right? So where the people sat, you know, is the essentially is where the common people sat. Inside, you didn't. That was something you never did, right? Like during like obviously outside of mass, people would the altar society may clean on the altar, near the altar and whatnot. But you never. The only people on the altar was the priest, the deacons, the altar boys, and the bishop. If there was a bishop at the mass, or the pope's also a bishop. But anyways, um, so that altar rail is that physical separation, and in the Eastern Catholic churches it's not just a rail, it's like a physical like wall with like holes in it, so you can't even
Yeah, I've
necessarily.
seen that in Eastern churches where like the altar is in like its own building within the church
Yeah,
itself.
that so it's that separation there, and this is something. It's this point, and you see there's this thing like people, as Chesterton said, you don't, or I'm paraphrasing, you don't tear down a fence until you find out why it's there. And in this case, considering it's practically really, I mean, it's kind of a fence, except it's beautiful and not made out of lumber, cheap lumber. It's either made out of ornate wood or stone or whatever. Um, when you remove that, suddenly people start coming up on the altar. So I essentially bounce back and forth between three parishes, depending on whether or not my parents went when I was at work. So then I go to mass while I was at work. So they're on Saturday. So I go to the traditional parish, or I go between two other parishes. At one parish, which is the parish we used to go to all the time, the choir guy has taken to getting up on the altar at various points throughout the mass to sing to sing certain psalms, and it infuriates me to no end that this is something that is allowed, because there is absolutely no point for him to get up on the altar. He has a microphone in the choir section. He has his own microphone. He's been doing it that way with a microphone for years. But for some reason, he feels the need to get up onto the altar. Now, it's not like he's right next to the the altar, like the actual altar where the priest is saying it, but he shouldn't be in that area at all. The fact that he is just infuriating, and it's kind of like that's kind of why I kind of have a feeling that's why people started putting rails there in the first place, because remember, this developed over time, because for the first 3 centuries there weren't physical churches, because we were getting persecuted, so that's why we had mass in the catacombs. Um but th- there's okay, I'm being long-winded. What I'm saying is there's a point. Don't get rid of the altar rails. Put the altar rails back, please. But more importantly, put the tabernacle where it's supposed to go. But that's a whole nother thing.
Yes, and the big thing on that as well is just it's also not just a physical and mental reminder, it's also just an understanding of kind of tradition, because a lot of the things that have been spawned by the acts of the Jesuits are not exactly our favorite. Need I say clown masses? Uh, which I'm not.
Clown
We're not.
masses. I don't think clown masses have been a thing for a while.
They haven't been a while. They haven't been around since the 90s, but they did exist, and they were not exactly uncommon. But it was there's just so much that is not exactly a thing we're a fan of. It's especially considering a lot of the new things being introduced to the church as like the new way things are going to be done from now on. They're not actually like doing that. What they all are is they're basically just temporary things that the church is saying, hey, they're called indults. Basically, hey, you can do this for a little while, right? There's an indult for doing mass versus populum. There's a mass. There's an indult
No,
for
for communion.
yeah. Yes, there's an indult for communion in the hand. There's an indult for moving altar rails. There's an indult for so many things that are considered standard within the church right now. And it's and I mean from I think everyone's opinion here who's Catholic just needs to end at this point. Like the indults need to stop.
And I think I hope I am hopeful because the younger priests are more traditional because my bishop, he's not young, but he's started to move things in the right direction because he's not putting altar rails back up, but on a outside the church perspective, he said, we're doing a 54-day rosary novena because Prop 3, which was the thing to overturn Roe v. Wade in Michigan, yeah, that's bad. We're going to try to stop that. I mean, the thing to Prop 3 was an initiative to overturn Michigan's anti-abortion law, and that
So
unfortunately succeeded.
Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, well, this
Roe
was
v.
the
Wade's
third.
pro-abortion.
Yeah,
You
Roe
know,
v.
you
Wade's
know,
pro-abortion.
yeah,
You guys know what I mean.
semantics,
I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
misspoke.
semantics.
Okay, you guys know what I mean. So, and then, but like inside the church, he's not saying put the altar rails back, but what he is saying is put the tabernacle where it's supposed to be, because and this is something that did happen in the past, right? Because there was a time in the church in the medieval period where people stopped believing in the real presence. And suddenly, and people were like, "Well, this is bad." So, because it's one thing to say it from an intellectual standpoint, but it's when you show because like I can say something, but people won't think I'm serious until I do something, which is why things like adoration and exposition of the Blessed Sacrament are important. And putting the tabernacle front and center because to show that this is why you're here. Like I mean, the priest consecrating host. I mean, the Eucharist is why you're here, right? Like, if it wasn't for the Eucharist, Mass, quote unquote, wouldn't be Mass, and it would just end after the Gospel reading. Like, it's like, okay,
Because
everybody, go home.
the thing is, yeah, with mass is as all things are, a ritual, and the ritual is to receive the Eucharist. Without it, it's just a big prayer session. Which I mean, prayer sessions are fun, but anyone can pray on their own. I mean, I've basically worn my rosary down to small nubs of what it used to be, but you know, um, it's a lot. It's super important to remember, the importance of the Eucharist, and as a Catholic, the real presence of it, because when you forget that, it stops being the real body, the real presence, the real blood of Christ. It becomes a snack cookie and some funny flavored, wine, which is not what it is. It is the real, actual presence of the Lord. And it is important that as Catholics we remember that. And I'm not going to like push this belief onto you, Will, because you're a Methodist, you can believe what you will. But like
Well, Methodism does come from the Episcopalian and Anglican tradition, and I believe they teach. Well, they don't teach I think they follow a similar logic to the Lutherans, where we believe they're in the presence, but we don't believe that it's literally
the transfigure, or yeah,
the
and
Yeah,
transubstantiation.
you think it's they think it's a symbol of the
No,
body
no, no,
and
it's
blood.
not a
no, 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 no,
symbol.
no, no, no,
Uh,
no, no.
It is
So
present. It's
yeah,
just not transubstantiated. It's not literal body and blood.
so I could tell you all the positions on it in Orthodoxy, in Catholicism. So that's all Eastern Orthodox and other like Oriental Orthodox. Basically, everything Orthodox, everything Catholic, all believe that it is the real presence of Christ and it is the actual body and blood that
Soul
is
divinity.
made. Yes, soul divinity is the act, like it actually transforms into the flesh and blood. In Lutheranism, they believe something similar. In Lutheranism, Anglicanism, and Episcopalianism to a smaller extent, they believe similar, though some drop off parts of it. And then in like low church Protestantism, they just completely lose it. They just say, "Oh, it's a representation," or "Oh, we don't do it."
That's Calvin's fault.
John Calvin. Oh, I
John
could talk
Calvin
about
and his
you for
Well,
consequences
I
hours.
have been
mean,
a disaster for the human race.
so yeah, no, no. Well, I mean, I don't know exactly what he thought about it, but I know he said that he thought that trans like that the priest.
Luther believed in transubstantiation.
Yeah,
Luther himself did.
but Calvin said, and I cannot believe he said this, considering this is something divinely instituted by Christ himself. He thought the mass was witchcraft, that we were
Oh,
trying to manipulate God. It's like he
And
Christ
that
told us do.
explains where the Puritans come from.
Yeah, I mean, Christ said, "As often as ye do these things, ye shall do them in remembrance of me." He specifically said, "Do this." Have you not read the Gospels? I'm pretty sure. I can't honestly. I don't want to sound too rude because at the end of the day, I want everyone who is Calvinist or anything to come back to the faith, and me just blatantly insulting you is not going to help you in your disposition. But there are just some things that I can't wrap my head around. Like I can get people who are from other religions, like completely detached, because like the idea would be is that you had the original revelation handed down to our first parents, and only the Jews preserved that original revelation. Then everything split off, which is why we have different um, um, stories from different cultures that are similar and have universal themes because they're all like perversions of the actual events. Um, but the and so I can understand like a Buddhist not getting it, but Protestants, it hurts me because I know where they come from, and they come from a perversion of the new law, and it pains me because these aren't people who have been detached for thousands of years from and separated from the old law. These are people who were, I mean, not literally the current people, but people who were in the church who had everything necessary for salvation right there, and they were led astray, and it rips me, like I like, not physically of course, but and it's like, and I see all of these divisions and all these splits, and like there's like 15 different kinds of Methodists now, apparently. Well, not 15, but you know what I mean. It's just like, guys, like like come home. It's like, eh, you know and I I mean, please. There is so much that that I mean, like, and like, I mean, the whole thing is a scandal, really. That there's like all these different Protestant denominations, like, and you have someone who's like
Uh,
potentially like Muslim or Buddhist or whoever, who's like potentially is interested in Christianity, but it's like, but they're like scandalized because there's 150 different versions out there. You know,
all
I mean,
this
the
to
whole
say, all this to say that Charles indeed loves all of you and he does not hate anyone for their religion. He just really wishes you guys would come back.
yeah, um, yeah, that they all may be one. Um, as the great
No,
priestly prayer Jesus would say.
I think I've said it before, but if the Catholic Church actually took the Anglican Ordinariate seriously and really invested into it, they could probably pull it off.
I mean, I do think, because like the Anglican Ordinariate, they are fire. Apparently, because like all these apparently there's this one
HBW.
priest, he's opened like, 4 parishes and like a school, and like all these like normal Latin rite priests are asking like, how are you guys, how are you, thriving so much? And he said, You
Gentlemen,
want to know the secret? You want to know the secret? I teach the Catholic faith." I mean, it's just,
I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm playing a Hearts of Iron 4 game, and a civil war fired in the U.S. in 1913, and guess who's the leader of the fascist South?
um Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's a fascist, bros.
I want
Thank
to. I
God.
Well, okay, so we
wanna.
tied this to Calvin, and therefore the Puritans and Oliver Cromwell, and we tied it to Woodrow Wilson. So we're all. This episode is its own
This
multiverse.
episode, it's like it's an art.
Now repeat after me before we wrap up this episode. Wilson!
Wilson.
Well, son.
Okay. So when we say link in the description below, we're gonna say link in the description below, and then Wells. No, we're not gonna do that.
That'd be
But
funny.
it
That'd be
might be.
funny.
But yeah. So do we? Let's see. Oh, I haven't ranted about. Well, I mean, I have, but I haven't had my own ranting topic. Let's see. I think that we need to invest in mandating that power transformers. Okay, they convert from the mains down to like 19 volts or 12 volts or whatever. They need to be able to receive as an international standard anywhere from 100 volts to 240 volts, because I have a couple of UK power transformers that I can't use even though I have an adapter, because they're rated only from 200 volts to 240 volts, and the US is 120 volts, so that could potentially mess things up. So we need a universal standard that says that if your product has a chance of being sold internationally, then the transformer has to be able to take the range of electrical power, so 100 volts to 240 volts, and 50 amps to 60 amps, because apparently the British like to do 50 amps, which is why their old TV standard was only 25 frames a second. The more you know.
Oh. Are you gonna be able to edit my map into the video, because it would make sense?
If you can give me like if you can give me like a JPEG file, no, I think I can put it as the link that you sent. Send me the link again.
I don't have a link for it. I
Just
can
send me
just
the
send you
image.
the
Send me
raw image.
I don't know how to put that in the video. I might be
There
able
you go.
to. Okay. So yeah, I might be able just to use the link that whatever. Anyways, so yeah, so that's my rant. If we're good electrical standards, we should try to unite them across the board. And also the UK, like, I know that your power outlet system is supposedly better because it's safer and whatnot, but your plugs are huge. Like, like you live in like these tiny houses with like barely any space, and you complain about that all the time, and like your power outlets are probably like two times the size of ours. Like, I'm getting some mixed signals over here. Okay, well, I guess that's just me. So does anyone else have anything to rant about?
Nothing from me.
No, I'm just still playing Hoi 4.
Ugh, imagine yeah, I don't think my computer can do Hoi 4 anymore. I tried to open it up, and then
That's
it was.
why
I don't.
mine's worth $4.5 grand, Chuck.
I don't think Chuck minds as long as his can run World of Warships.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, that's fair.
as long as it can run World of Warships and Ravenfield's Project Alterus
Ooh,
mods, I'm good.
I've heard Ravenfield's pretty good.
It is, and if you and this is, and I don't know Sofa, the guy who makes Project Alterus, but I'm gonna shill. Okay, even though I'm not getting money, so it's not technically shilling. Project Alterus, it's like this alternate world thing, but it's like interwar technology. And unfortunately, the good guys lose. The Kingdom of Hetland loses to Servania, but it is a really cool setting. There is a lot of lore in this game that is basically like polygon people shooting at each other. The weapon design is great. The narrating that he works in to the maps is great. The maps themselves are really great. The tanks and all the custom stuff he's done. So if you have Ravenfield, or you're thinking about getting Ravenfield and you get it, look up Project Alterus. It's like one of the most popular series of mods in the Ravenfield community. Really great story, really great inspiration if you're thinking about doing something like that. The only sad thing is that the good guys don't win. canonically. But hey, you're playing the battle, so you can change the outcome. As I drop my Lego crate piece that I was
So,
messing around with.
just some happy news. We would like to congratulate the Princess Alexandra, daughter of Henri the Grand Duke of Luxembourg, on her upcoming nuptials.
Ooh,
She
who's
will
she
be
marrying?
marrying Nicolas Bagory of Brittany on April 22nd at the town hall in the city of Luxembourg. The religious wedding will happen on the 29th of April in the Saint Trophime Church in Bormes-les-Mimosas.
Very cool.
So congratulations to the happy couple.
Congratulations indeed.
Cheers.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. I don't know how do you just refer to nobles who aren't kings in that context? Like,
Nobles.
congratulations, people who are above us in social rank who are cooler than us.
Majesty and Highness both work.
So
Huh?
what'd you say?
Majesty and Highness refer to Prince. Well, it's Grand
Highnesses would
Duke.
work.
Well,
Either way.
okay. Well, congratulations, your coolnesses. I'm sorry.
Yes,
This is how sad that it is that we're American monarchists, but we don't have the lexicon to go with it.
Yeah. Dude,
That's why
literally
we're-
Highnesses. Leon
Okay,
said
congratulations,
Highnesses.
your
Yeah.
highnesses.
If-
May
if
your
I'm
reign be
or-
fruitful, and I mean your reign, your marriage be long and fruitful.
I'm ever brought before an American emperor. I'm calling him your coolness,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
your radness. You know,
Your madness. I mean,
King Ferris Bueller the First. You know,
Oh no.
Imagine.
Bueller.
Bueller.
But that would be perfect. That would be perfect because, like, the United Nations might still exist, and I hate the fact that the United Nations might still exist in our glorious monarchist future. But
hey, that's the title for the episode. King Bueller the First.
King Bueller the First. Let's do it. No, so no, I just hate. But, like, he decides to, like, skip the UN because the UN is lame, and like they're doing the roll call of, like, the world leaders, and it's like King Bueller. King Bueller. Like, it would be
I could see
perfect.
it. I could see it.
I
Oh,
could
it'd
see
be
it, but
hilarious.
a better scenario would be the UN doesn't exist and we restore the glorious empire. That would, but one step at a time.
We don't need a UN. We need an imperial diet.
I know. I mean, like, the Holy Roman
The
Empire
United
never
World
officially
Empire.
was dissolved, so we just need to get the Pope, a Habsburg, a crown. Well, the crown still exists. The Pope, a Habsburg, and the crown, and we can just call it good.
Oh,
I mean,
I'd argue.
I forgot that I'm playing the World War I mod, and Russia just went communist but kept Nikolai.
What?
one struggle.
So we have a Soviet empire
Okay.
in
So we're
1913.
Let's Chuck, how about we do the outro and stuff?
yeah. Yeah. Ooh, hold on. Prayer card. Distract. Okay. So, if you would like to join us live for Monarchist Minute, then you can join us by clicking that link in the description below. If you would like to see our Twitter, our Gab, our La Facebook, our everything else, then you can do that by clicking on the link in the description below.
Description below.
If you would like to see the most accurate ethnic group survey of Europe that shows the allegiance of every place, then you can click Constantine's totally accurate map that would make any 19th century scientist proud by clicking that link in the description below, assuming that it works. If you would like to see our website, if I didn't plug that, you can do it by clicking the link in the description below. Okay.
Shall I lead us in the prayer now?
Yeah, just let me get Le Time Stomp, and please don't do Southern. You're not Southern. Please don't. Okay. 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 Ready.
All right. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us of our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost, amen. All right. So until next week, may God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.